Welcome to the Leadership Communication Expo, the virtual event that is giving you access to industry experts who are going to share their simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies so you can fully embrace the leader you are meant to be, master conflict resolution, and create engaging and inclusive teams. My name is Tammy Dunnett, and today in this session, we have Kim Deshane with us. She is a feminine leadership guide and the founder of Inner Powered Leaders and the Female Changemakers membership. Kim is passionate about helping high-achieving, self-aware executives to level up and find their seat at decision-making tables without overwhelm and burnout. Kim supports these female change makers to embrace and activate their feminine energy and transform their leadership. And today we're going to be talking about impactful leadership without overwhelm or burnout. Welcome, Kim.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm delighted to have you here. I think burnout and overwhelm, two hot topics right now, especially with what the workplace is going through in the last 18 months, 20 months. I think this is a very highly relevant topic, so I'm happy to have you here as an expert in those areas.
Thank you.
Why don't we start with, I actually would like to know how you got into this. Where's your passion coming to work with people who are preventing or who currently are recovering from burnout and overwhelm?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's my own personal story. I burnt out about 15 years ago. I was a school teacher, I always say, in my previous life. I taught for 13 years and I completely burnt out, which then was followed up by severe depression and anxiety. And I was stuck. I was in I was in suicidal thoughts, couldn't get out of bed. After I had my second daughter, it ended up postpartum depression, and it just kind of went from there. And so it took me 10 years to climb out of what I call my deep, dark pit. And as I was feeling better, I actually was helping my daughter through an anxiety attack. And I had a moment where this voice just came to me and it said, this is why you had to go through what you did, so you can help her heal and others heal. And so that kind of started it. I became energy healing really helped me. So I became an energy healer. I opened up my own business. I became an integrative mental health coach. I was seeing people who were in their deep, dark pits. And it started really coming to me as to why am I dealing with people at the very bottom? What if we helped them before they got there? What if we prevented it in the first place? Then I started teaching, using my teaching skills, but teaching adults. I started going into corporate, trying to discuss how to prevent overwhelm and burnout before it even happens. And I believe, and this is a Kim stat, that's what I call it, a Kim statistic, that I believe, 80% of mental illness, burnout, and overwhelm are preventable. But our society has taught us otherwise. And so my passion is to help people. And now it's leadership, because now if I can impact the leaders who then can impact more people, right? Then we have that domino effect going and we have a healthier and happier society. It's that easy.
I'm like fist pump the entire time. Yes, I totally believe in upstream. I think, I want to say it's unfortunate you had to journey through what you went through. My story is similar, right? The bullying experience, I had to journey through that to find that this was my path. This was my mission in life, to help others. And so, I don't know about you, but I look back at my experience now as a gift that I didn't know I wanted.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I thank you for looking and being so reflective in your own journey of healing, because I know it takes an awful lot of conscious effort to heal, to recover, to bounce back. It's so easy to just fall off the cusp of the earth and stay down there in victim mode. It's so much easier than it is to come back to life. So I thank you for being reflective on that, to the point that you can now help others.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what burnout is. I think so many people who maybe are struggling with it, I certainly didn't know I was burning out because I was too busy fighting. They may not notice the signs. Why don't we start there?
Sure. Fatigue. And this is like not tired, right? This is that you never feel like you have energy. You feel like you are barely surviving. It's like that drowning piece, right? Where we always say, barely keeping my head above water, right? You are not enjoying things. Things are just like, and you put things off because you feel like there's so much to do, but you're also not getting anything done, or that's what you feel, right? And you feel like you are in this cycle. And then it goes into physical pain. We manifest it. We can get headaches. We can get aches and pains, sore backs. And a lot of times we don't listen to those. Our body's saying, hey, why are you doing this to me? And we keep pushing. And every time we push, that step down into that deep, dark pit goes farther and farther down. And so it really is an awareness. And I think most people will say, well, isn't this how it's supposed to be? Aren't we supposed to be busy all of the time? And we all say we're busy. We all say we're tired and that there is no time. And we actually teach our bodies that that's how we think it should be. And that is not it. So I think those are the main things about the burnout.
So I wrote down a few things here. I think social conditioning leads us to maybe not pay attention to the signs. It's always been, in the American culture, North-South American culture, is that better than the neighbors. We have to always be like one step ahead, richer, have more things. And so that means we need to work hard. And that's kind of how some of us have been raised. Your worth is equated to your productivity. And so
absolutely. Yep.
And then the other thing, as I was thinking, is we are great at rationalizing things away, as you mentioned. Isn't this how we're supposed to feel?
This is normal, right? This is normal. And I think my biggest awakening for people is that this is your choice. We choose overwhelm, or we can choose not to be overwhelmed. We honestly have that. When we get to the burnout stage, now our choice has stepped up a level, and it's harder to choose out of it. We have to take a full step away from it to really start to heal. But we can stop it still in that overwhelm stage by just choosing it. And I think that's what I like to empower people with, is we have the choice.
We absolutely do. We have a lot of choices, and it doesn't always feel like it.
No.
It can feel like life is happening to us instead of for us, which is a really big mindset shift. Now, when it comes to leaders, though, is it possible, with all the roles and expectations a leader has upon them, is it possible to be a leader without burnout being the end result?
Absolutely. And we want that because we want to keep these amazing leaders in their positions without burning out. Is it possible to be a leader without overwhelm? No, but you can catch it, right? We deal with it. We catch it sooner, that whole prevention key. And yeah, we can. So do you want me to go into how, or how do you want me to?
Yeah, we're definitely going to go into how, because I'm pretty sure everyone listening was like, hands up, tell me how, because I'm feeling it right now. Yes, let's dive into how.
Okay. So I truly believe that if we want to be an impactful leader, we have to focus on self-leadership first. And so we have to be able to control our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And if we can do that, we can stop burnout, because we give ourselves a 1 second gap to be able to think of what is my response going to be, or my action, instead of my reaction. And so we need to focus on, I have my process as head, heart, hands. So as a leader, you need to focus on slowing your mind down. Head is first, that self-leadership part. Slowing down, learning how to be mindful, or you can call it quieting your brain, just being in the moment, focusing on one thing at a time. And, I have tons of strategies that, at some point we can talk about it, or, you can look me up to see, but there's lots of really great strategies, just how to slow our mind down. That is not sitting meditating for an hour, because people are going to say, I can't do that. Right.
Well, let's give one example here while we're talking about it, something they can quickly implement.
Absolutely. So let me give you two quick ones. One, stand behind your chair. As you breathe in, you go up on your toes. As you breathe out, you go down. Breathe in, breathe out. Do that for 10 times. You have now just practiced mindfulness, and you are focusing on one thing. Another great one is called 5 senses. You can do it at your desk, while you're walking, while you're driving, while you're sitting, laying in bed. Go through the senses. What do I see? And just focus and say everything in your head that you see. What do I hear? Do I have any taste in my mouth? What do I smell? And what do I feel? So that can be emotions. Am I feeling sad, happy, lonely? And am I hot? Am I cold? Do I feel my feet on the ground? Do I feel my pants rubbing against my leg? There, that has been 1 minute of mindfulness. And I encourage every person, leader, we're all leaders of our life,
Yes.
that you start with 1 minute a day. And I can guarantee you that after 30 days, you will see a difference in your thinking process at 1 minute a day. And no one can tell me they do not have time for 1 minute. Because if you go on your phone, on any kind of social media, right, you have a minute.
Yeah, I got an hour for TikTok every morning before I get up out of bed.
Right? Wow, that's a lot of breathing.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have used that strategy when I wake up and my mind is full of all the to-dos and the things I want to do. I have brought myself back to the present moment by focusing on what do I see? Look at the shadows, describe what you see in the present tense. Really important activity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so those are some good ones.
All right, so that's talking about the head and kind of becoming aware of self.
Yes, that's right. So self-leadership. So that's helping us to do that, right? And then once we can have that 1 second gap between choosing our thoughts and our feelings and our actions, we now go to our heart. And this is where I love to say we release our feminine energy, and we can choose to do this. And so all of us have masculine and feminine energy. And so the masculine energy is the doing energy. The feminine energy is more the being energy. We need both, and male and female have both of them. But in our society right now, we are majority masculine. Doing, thus we burn out. Okay, so the being does not mean sitting. The being is just using the different side of our brain, creative, going with the flow, collaborating, listening to our intuition. And when we can focus on those traits in our leadership, we are not only looking after our health, because if you compare yourself to choosing anger, frustration, control, versus compassion, kindness, the vibration is different, right? And we are exhausted when we are using those masculine energy traits all of the time. And as women, sometimes we forget about our innate traits and we try to fit into the masculine. And when we try to fit in where we don't belong, that also wears our energy out. So we have to be really intentional in deciding what am I going to choose? So I really like to teach people how to choose compassion, gratitude, kindness, and listening to your body or your intuition. What is it saying for you to do? And then once you listen to it, you take inspired action with your hands. You don't necessarily always listen to what your head says. Your head is that logical thing that doesn't always do what's best for us. So we listen to our body, and then we figure out with our head how to get what our body is saying we need. Okay? So that's what the head is there for. So then we take the inspired action. And then we go through the loop again. When we start to feel overwhelmed, we slowly have to continue to take those breaks, calm our mind down so we can focus on choosing more of our feminine energy, and then take inspired action. And if you do that, let's even say 30% of the time, your chances of having burnout have tripled less than before.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, I'm not surprised at some of that information because, they say it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile, and to hold on to that negative energy. Like, it's through all of your body.
Yes.
That negativity just comes out through all of your body. It's not just your emotion, not your brain, not your heart. It's through everything. And so, I love that you teach people to choose grace and connection and collaboration. Heart-centered is how that sounds to me, which sounds very connected to the feminine, as you'd mentioned. Now, I do want to come back to this because you mentioned It does take effort to go into the side that you're not dominant in, because we'll have probably a lean, masculine, feminine energy, even though we are a blend of both.
Yep.
So it won't matter which side you're at. If you're choosing to go into the feminine because that's not your strong suit, it will still require energy of you. So is there a risk of burnout by consciously working from a place that's not your intuitive space?
If you try to stay there all the time, yes. But you will find that especially if we shift into and always try to fit into the masculine, like I said, yeah, we are going to burn out, because that is the doing. The being, though, if we actually stay in the being, we actually could, we get more lethargic, right? So that's why we need a little bit of the masculine to balance it out. We have to take action. We have to show our confidence. We have to move forward, but we need to do it creatively. Yeah, there we go. We have to do it by thinking about other people and how will this affect them. We have to do it collaboratively instead of thinking that I'm a one-man show or a one-woman show. Doesn't matter either way. And when you're in your feminine energy and it's balanced, you are actually healing your body because we are relaxed. When we're in creative mode, when we are in ease and flow, our body and our cells are not moving at the same vibration. They are in a state of calm. And that's where that being comes from. And that is why we need to be there at least half of the time, so we can balance out the doing.
Is there a way in which we can set our environment up to support that? And I ask because as you're sharing that, I'm thinking when I go for my walk in nature, I'm very purposeful. I'm walking for exercise, and I'm also walking because I love to be out there. But there's a spot. It's my like halfway point where I stop and I look out onto the birds on the water. And immediately when you exhaled, that's what I thought of. I was like, oh yeah, right there. Life melts off of me, but I don't stay there long. Because maybe it's the masculine energy going, you need to get back to the office. You got stuff to do. You can't stay here. So is there a way to set up our office so that it's conducive for us to, harness in on that feminine energy?
Absolutely. So let me give you an example. I went to the Van Gogh live exhibit in the summer, and it was like, it touched my soul. I could have laid on that floor all day. Luckily my children were there and they're like, Mom, please, like, we have to go. We've been here way too long. I was just like, so I bought the poster, one of his posters of his paintings, and I have it up on my wall. And when I look at it, I pause and I remember that feeling of when I was there. And that's what we have to do. We have to connect to those feelings of joy, of excitement, of peace, what brings us that calm. And those are things, then you can have things that remind you of events or memories that can bring you back to that place. And then you're just intentional. When I look at it, I remember that soul touching experience, and instantly my body's like, okay, I'm ready to move on now in a flow instead of a go.
Now with this, I'm thinking of, so we can set up our environment to help us have signals to remind us it's okay, breathe, get back into that joyous state. Are there risk factors in our environment that maybe we should be watching for to mitigate? So I'm thinking, with all the stress in the last 18 months, we have changing rules daily. I'm in healthcare, and I'm in education, so the rules change every day. So are there signs to watch for, or an awareness maybe to start to have in your practice to identify the triggers that might lead you to burnout?
For sure. Like, are there, do you like to be even in large groups of people? Do you enjoy smaller groups of people? And I think that, when we're having meetings, it's deciding as a group, even, how are we going to meet? Implementing some of these things into meetings to help everyone, right? We're going to role model. We're going to try to help everyone shift their energy into a more positive state and into the state of flow and being just a little bit more. So an example would be at the beginning of a meeting, you could do an exercise called 3-2-1. Everyone takes 3 deep breaths. Then you say 2 things that you are grateful for, and one act of kindness that you have seen or you have done in the last week. And you can even do it to the people beside you. You don't have to do it to the whole table. So it doesn't have to take more than 2 minutes of your time. And so that is setting up your environment so that everyone starts to have the same energy.
Mm.
And when we start sharing the same energy, it helps to support us and keep us up higher that way. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, because were some triggers that you could kind of noted in there, like large groups, small groups, what's draining on your energy. It sounds like maybe that's the piece to look for. And
Yes.
if you're continually bombarded with that, then you may be at higher risk of burnout because you're forever having to like exert effort to be around
Yes.
people, less time to fill up.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And are you doing what you love? And, I realize sometimes we don't have a choice in our jobs, but we need to share, what parts of our jobs maybe we don't like, or the parts that we may not necessarily love. How can I bring something in while I'm doing it? I'm going to play my favorite music while I check emails because, that's my part that, I don't enjoy. So, those things, try to bring something in that you really enjoy, because as soon as we are doing something that we enjoy or bring us happiness, we cannot feel any other emotion at that moment. So we can't feel overwhelmed. We can't feel stress at that exact moment, which then helps us get through those hard times and not have those things pile up on top of our energy and keep us heavy.
Mm. That's fascinating. So what if somebody's already down the road of burnout? They're now hearing this like, oh God, yep, this is what I have. I'm burnt out. I don't have any joy. What's their next step?
Yeah. Well, you need to reach out for support. And that can look in many different ways. And that's part of the hands part too, is support. So that can be friends, that can be family, where you are around people that can lift you up and support you, and you ask for help. Do you need meals? A couple meals brought to you, and this is a whole thing too, saying, I need help.
That's big.
Right? But this is step one. We want to feel better. Here we go. How am I going to do this? Am I going to get my kids a babysitter more often? Right? Am I going to ask my spouse can I go away I might leave and go to a hotel for 2 nights, just me, all by myself, or with a girlfriend. It depends what you feel you need at that time. And so it has to be support. Maybe it is going to getting a coach. Maybe it is doing a group support program. But it's really hard to do it on our own, because as soon as we start doing it, we start telling ourselves stories that we're not worthy, that we're weak, that why can I do it? Everyone else can do it, especially when we go on social media. So support is number one, asking for some kind of help. And then number 2 is doing some mindfulness activities, nature, going for a walk. We have to start training our brains to slow down so we can then choose the things that help us feel better and that can help us to heal.
Mm-hmm. So asking for support, I think, is probably one of the hardest things for many to do. And I would add that maybe once they're in a leadership position, even harder, because there's an expectation that they already should have some things figured out.
Right. But feminine energy is vulnerability. Feminine energy is being authentic. And as soon as you do that, you are being a more impactful leader. And you will notice also, by taking those chances, now all of the people around you are like, oh my gosh, I feel the exact same way. And if they can say it, then I can say it. Yeah. And so we look at it as my leadership. Okay, then I'm going to step out and share with everyone that, heck, this is the way life is. I need some help. And does anyone else, how's everyone else feeling? Making those connections and being vulnerable.
I got to just say, I love that. The word I just wrote down was permission. I think when you can be authentic, you can be human, you can show people that I don't have it all figured out. I may be responsible for making the decisions, but I rely on all of you guys. You give permission for others to say, hey, I don't have to have it all figured out either. And I can ask people for support. So this culture, it does sound like a culture shift. We talk about support, how hard it is to ask for it. But if we shift it to we're creating a culture of permission for others to say, it might be
Yeah,
easier for us and our leaders to also step into that role.
exactly. So you're actually just leading. You're leading others to ask for help, to share their story, right? And I think if you look at it that way, that you are being a role model, it might be easy. It's easier to take that first step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the thought of permission. It reminds me of a time when I was, and it's not even related to leadership. It was a time in my life when I was a student in nursing school. And our teacher was asking us, she was into Reiki and some alternative therapies, and she was taking us through an exercise. But I was in a place in my life where I felt I had no power. And I don't know if this is going to resonate with others. I felt like I had no power. And so I adamantly refused to do the activity. In fact, I was sitting there with my arms crossed, and I think I said to her, this is hokey. I'm not doing it. Like, I was rude. For me, I was rude. But she said to me afterwards, because I apologized, she thanked me because I gave others permission to do what they wanted to do and what felt good for them. And even though it came not from a good place initially, the culture of permission has fascinated me ever since then. And it just reminded me of that as you shared this today, being a leader and saying, I need support. I don't have this figured out.
Yep.
I need to check out for 5 minutes, or like I need to close my door and put on some music for 5 minutes. Showing others it's okay that they can take that moment of permission. Such a profound moment.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's really important to help move people away from accepting everything that's coming at them and thinking they need to juggle all the balls and not let anything drop, because that stress on top of that, of the task, is, cumulative towards the burnout.
Right. And no one can do it all. No one. And I mean, we can just look at the numbers of depression and burnout as they keep going higher and higher and higher, that we have to have a change. And so being the leaders of that change will change your connection within your teams. And then we know it changes your productivity, your efficiency, and it will change your bottom line in the end.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When you have a happier team, when you can connect to happy just by, like the example you gave of the 3-2-1, 2 minutes before a meeting, level up the energy in the room, get us all vibrating at the same place. That synergy
Yep.
is protective.
Yes.
That
Very
synergy
much.
is connective.
Yep.
It's very much heart-centered, and it helps you see people as humans and not just a checkbox.
That's right.
Yeah. Fascinating. All right. So why do we need to be in feminine energy more? I'm not sure if we've answered this. I feel like maybe we did, but let's
I
just.
think so. I think we have, just that, we need to slow down. And so the being allows our body, our brain to rest and it helps us to enjoy our life. And, I am at peace and I am happier when I am in my feminine energy.
Mhm.
And so sometimes, and then when I shift into my masculine, I can do it. And I can even have both of a little bit of both. When I start to feel struggling or a little bit of overwhelm, that's when I say to myself, okay, I am not choosing overwhelm. I'm choosing flow. And instantly it's like, okay, I'm going to get my work done, but now I've switched my idea and I'm just going to go with it. Maybe I'm going to do something else right now and do it, but I'm going to continue moving forward, but I am not going to choose the overwhelm. And as soon as we make up that mind in our mind, we shift.
This is half joke and half serious. No, which energy is responsible for the 10-pound weight gain when I'm so stressed out that all I do is eat? Because I want to harness that one and get rid of it.
I don't know. I'm not going to answer that.
That's what it says, half joke, half serious. I'm like, geez, which one do I need to be in? Probably the feminine. I need to go out of the masculine because it's all about the doing. Like, I feel like it's that masculine energy is about task accomplishment. And when I struggle, it's the judgment, the self-judgment that comes from that. I don't know if there's a connection here. That makes me feel less than, which makes me disconnect, makes me go to the fridge. And I got to come back into that peaceful place to say, yeah, you can do this, nurturing my own self to come back and you can figure this out. You just need some support. You just need to say, hey.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Fascinating seeing that all come together. That's amazing. Is there anything you'd like to share on burnout or overwhelm in relation to the energy levels that maybe I haven't asked already?
I think that, I think it's being intentional, being aware and taking that time to really focus on, am I in control of my thoughts and feelings and actions? And am I acting or am I reacting? And so it's a lot of self-reflection, and it's taking that time to do that. And as soon as you do the self-reflection, it's amazing how we slowly shift. And then, of course, the people that we're around, we shift all of our relationships without doing anything to them. It's just because we have changed and we have shifted. And then we have that impact.
Yeah, we know emotions are contagious. Dr. Rob Pennington shared in his session, we can't control the first thought, but we can control the second thought. And that is that gap you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
Recognize that first judgment, knee jerk, whatever it is. Give yourself a moment to just take a breath, take a walk if you need to, if you need a bigger gap, and then come back in intentionally and purposefully.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Sounds very protective of spirit and energy and time.
Yes, absolutely it is. Yeah, and I mean we have that control. And this empowers us to know that we can actually slow down time. We can actually get more stuff done and be healthy while we're doing it. So it's just win-win all around.
Yeah. I so appreciate you sharing that today with us. Now you have a quiz. What is your feminine leadership superpower? Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So sometimes, this feminine leadership is overall new words, right? But I feel like we need to realize, what is my superpower? Is it compassion? Is it my intuition? What is my strong strength that you might not even know is your strength, right? And so this kind of helps bring out, what is that strength that you have already? How does it show up for you in your life and at work? And how does it actually affect your leadership in positive ways? And then it usually helps us then to connect to more of those feminine energy superpowers. But this will really help you to be like, wow, I do this. And when I do, I feel great. And now I'm going to choose it even more.
Connecting us with our awareness, like bring it to our attention so that we can replicate it and duplicate it and multiply it.
Exactly. Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom with us and your zone of genius.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Just take a deep breath and enjoy.
And don't forget to grab that quiz and stay connected with Kim. All of her links are below. So thank you so much for watching today.